Alright, chemists. So we're going to start off with talking about the elements and mixtures in the different spheres of the Earth, of which there are four. Okay, so we'll start off with the atmosphere. This is the gaseous layer, again using our proper terminology, basically between the surface of the Earth and space. You have the troposphere, that's the area closest, that's the one we breathe from, which is about 75.3% nitrogen. This is WW, which means percentage by weight, so when you dry it off as a weight. 23.1% is oxygen and 1.3% is argon, which means carbon dioxide that can cause us so much trouble is actually a really, really small amount. So yeah, biosphere, that's just basically the area where everything lives, and that's 6% oxygen and 20% or 21% carbon and small amounts of hydrogen and nitrogen. The hydrosphere is where all the water is found, so that's like the ocean, but it also goes into the lithosphere as well, and the wet, so the water vapor in the atmosphere. And it's about 86% oxygen and about 11% hydrogen. The lithosphere is the Earth's crust, and it's mostly oxygen, silicon and aluminium, but there is actually, it has a different composition to that of the entire Earth. The Earth in its entirety, for example, heavier elements tend to be a bit more common, like iron, than this, but they are all sunk right down to the bottom. Alright, so it's a little bit more detail. So you've got the lithosphere, which is the rocky crust and upper mantle, and it's here in our diagram. So that's the lithosphere. Also, the hydrosphere, which includes the crust and some of the atmosphere. The biosphere, again, stuff lives within the crust and up in the atmosphere as well. And the atmosphere is just this area here, that's space. And the asthenosphere, that's the more fluid aspects of the mantle, so the lower mantle, even a bit into the upper mantle counts as well. Okay, so generally in the lithosphere, elements are locked into minerals. We have some minerals come as free elements, but mostly they're silicates, oxides, carbonates, and sulfides of metals. But the free elements tend to be stuff like gold, silver, and the precious metals that we pull straight out of the ground. And as we said, the abundance of elements is quite different to that within the Earth as a whole. Alright, the hydrosphere. So this is basically the surface waters, but it does extend into the atmosphere and lithosphere. Where is all the water found? 97.2% of it is found in the oceans. Ice makes it, so that's your polar ice caps and glaciers. That makes up about 2.2%, and that's locked, so that's not really useful water for us as human beings. Becoming more and more useful though as the Earth heats up. The lithosphere holds about 0.6% of the water, and with a small amount of rounding, 0.0001% of all of the water is floating around the atmosphere. Now, just while we're talking about that, the two highest contributors to, the three highest contributors to global warming include methane, water, and then carbon dioxide is the most. And none of those, when we add them all together, make up more than, say, 2%. So the hydrosphere is, H2O is water. So therefore, mostly it's hydrogen and oxygen. But about 3% of the ocean is mineral salts, or are mineral salts. So that's not just sodium chloride, that's also magnesium chloride, lots of chlorides, magnesium chloride, and so forth. Now, in the atmosphere, basically that's the gaseous layer above the lithosphere. Alright. We've got the biosphere, which is just all the areas where life is found. So atmosphere, we go to this. First, from ground to 10 kilometres up, that's the troposphere. From 10 to 50 kilometres up, so 40 kilometres above there, that's the stratosphere. From 50 to 90 kilometres up, again another 40 kilometres, that's what we call the mesosphere. And then from there, from about 90 to about 500 kilometres above, we have the thermosphere. And then once you're above there, you have space. Alright, back to the lithosphere. So It's the atmosphere, the lithosphere, and the hydrosphere make up the biosphere. And also, since cells are mostly H2O, hydrogen and oxygen are the most abundant, but also there's a lot of carbon, etc. So, I want you to produce a table for each of there's 4 of them, each of the 4 spheres of their compositions of elements. Now, again, they're all found as mixtures, as either elements or elementals or compounds, and yeah, that's us for today. So I want you to copy it. So with all your notes, can you please put those tables? If you don't use your textbook, you can use the internet. There's lots of information out there. All right, see you later.